Hello everyone, my name is Kerem Gökçe from Henry Stewart Events and I'm delighted to welcome you to this 6-part online series, Damn and the Consumer Experience, with our series leader, Theresa Regli from Veritas Digital. Just a few housekeeping points. If you have any questions, please type them into the question box of your GoToWebinar menu and Theresa will pick them up for you during the session. Each session will be recorded and a link will be sent to you later along with a PDF of the presentation. Now it's my great pleasure to pass over to Theresa Regli. Thank you, Theresa. Over to you.
Hello. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. It's great to have you all here. Thank you for returning. Those of you coming back, I see there's rapidly many people coming online. So thanks again for joining. This is session 3 of DAM and the consumer experience. I'm really excited about today's session because we have some fabulous people that are going to share their experiences with you. People that I've known for a long time and everybody that I've worked with in various capacities here joining me today. So really great to have this crew here. If you've not met me before, my name's Theresa Regli. I've been involved in the DAM industry for about 20 years now and working in more broadly in digital technology for just about 30 years. And I have done a number of projects with Lands' End and with Censhare. So I just would love to have each of our illustrious speakers introduce themselves today, just to as people come online and we get started. Josh, please tell people about yourself and your history in DAM. You're on mute, Josh, I think. Oops. Did we lose Josh? Natalie, how about if you start and then maybe Josh will figure that out. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so I am Natalie Daller. I'm the Senior Digital Asset Manager at Lands' End. I've been with Lands' End in this role for about 3 years now. But before coming to Lands' End, I also worked in DAM at other places and have probably been in the industry for about 12 or 13 years now.
Dale.
My name is Daller Meinholz. I'm the DAM specialist here at Lands' End, and I've been here for about 4 years.
Excellent. Josh, did you get your mute to unmute? Okay, it looks like Josh might be having an audio problem, so I think he hopefully will leave and come back by the time his slides come up, but if not, we'll just circle back to him, such as adaptation in this world that we live in. Let's just dive right into the content and hopefully we'll be able to come back to Josh. Okay, so as mentioned, this is a 6-part series here. We're right in the middle now. So if you missed the first 2 for any reason, please fret not. They're recorded, and if you are registered for the series, you should have gotten emails with those recordings. If you did not, that's okay, because we're happy to provide them again, or the Henry Stewart team, I should say, will be happy to provide them again. So just pop an email over if you didn't receive those recordings. So as mentioned, today is one of the middle sessions around DAM and the physical world. And I think this is a particularly interesting topic because we always talk about digital assets and digital asset management, and we don't necessarily think of it as something that's driving physical sorts of experiences, but it's very, very clear that DAM often drives physical experiences and parts of the things that we encounter in the physical world. And I think part of why Censhare is a very appropriate sponsor for today's session is because they have a tremendous history in supporting sort of physical and tangible publishing in particular, and catalogs and things that we hold in our hands and that are actually part of the physical world. So just some examples of what we think about you can manage in DAMs. Packaging has become extremely prominent, and pack shots and pictures of products, and how we actually manage basically the marketing and the sales process around products is very much happening in our DAM. All the different dimensions. We're starting to manage a lot of 3D images in our DAMs, as an example. Even when we think about what we get in a package, when we have that experience of getting something in the actual physical mail, or if we buy something in a store and it's packaged up beautifully, very often the color palettes and the different sorts of elements that we encounter when something gets packed up is often managed in a DAM today. So all of these elements play into the physical experience that we're having of products. And so many of this is managed, through our digital asset management systems, and that's exactly what we'll be talking about today. So there's many examples around how this can happen, not just with packages, but even with something like a promotion that crosses over both the physical and the digital world. This is an example from a vendor called Chili Publish that does a lot of work producing physical and tangible objects that are well branded across many different experiences. This is just an example of, you might be checking into a hotel and you have a thing that hangs on your doorknob, and you've got something sitting on the bar, and you might have a membership card if you're a member of this particular hotel chain. These sorts of elements can be managed in a DAM. The fonts can be managed in a DAM, and the actual outputs can actually be sent to a printer directly from a DAM. So this is about adapting to various sorts of print experiences. Here's another example, from Censhare, which Vitra, which is a very I would call it a high-end furniture brand, and you can see here you have an example of actually getting a physical card if you're a member, or that can also be, of course, a virtual card now. You have the example of also having an experience, not just necessarily shopping online, but even if you're in a store and maybe there's a sample chair sitting in the physical shopping experience or in the physical store, but they might have a kiosk nearby where you could see more colors, or you could actually have a broader selection that you could perhaps even order it in store on the kiosk and have it delivered to your to your home, because you don't have a big enough car to transport whatever the piece of furniture is, or you can have them deliver it for you, whatever it is. There's so many, as we talked about in the first session, there's so many different omni-channel experiences. Many of those channels could be physical or in a physical space that is being adapted using digital assets. And so all of this is really part of how a DAM plays into the experiences of the physical world. Here's an example of also how we think about the management of physical products and the sale of physical products. And this is an example from our sponsor Censhare that does a very good job in this example of merging together a product, a tangible product, and all the data and related assets around a product. So you think about this bicycle, and this is a single product, and you have data that is also managed around the product that might be extremely detailed product data, like the dimensions of the product or the related parts that go with this product. But you also have marketing copy, and increasingly, when it comes to selling products, of course, we want to manage our marketing copy alongside our physical pictures of our physical products and around our digital assets. And this is because historically, of course, when we think about the ways that we've been managing this sort of content in the past, it's been in a document, it's been in a spreadsheet, it gets emailed around. But with modern DAMs, when we bring in marketing content and we bring in product data, we have more of this idea of a dashboard, right? Of a sort of a hub, a centralized place for marketing content, as well as digital assets and data. And this is all happening around the physical product. So here's an example, of course, from Land's End, who's going to share all the amazing things that they're doing with their DAM and with merging that with the physical experience of buying products as well. We think about assets managed and adapted, for both digital and physical mediums. So these are different banner ads that are created for digital on the left, but on the right-hand side, at the top here, this is an actual layout for a catalog page, and you can see this is the same image with essentially a layered image, or a what I would call a multi-asset compound asset, or multi-asset image, or a compound asset, where it's not just about the beautiful photograph of everybody looking very relaxed on the beach in wonderful Land's End linen products. It's also about the branding and essentially promoting a lifestyle that's multifaceted, and then using that same image in a different way with different sorts of product promotions, for the catalog that people will receive in the mail. So that's a single source, and sending that out in a multi-channel way. And then here's the website, the same image used in a different way. So that's what we're going to hear about today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Josh. Hopefully, Josh, your sound works now.
Yeah, let's hope so, right?
Excellent. Okay, make sure, since we didn't get the chance to introduce you at the beginning, that you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then you should be able to share your slides.
Fantastic. Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Josh Van Dyke. I'm the Vice President of Sales in North America. I've been with Censhare almost 6 years, and super excited to be here today. We'll be talking a little bit about Censhare, some of our DAM and print capabilities, and then I'll turn it over to our client, Lands End. A little bit about Censhare. Our parent company is Dumont, which is a company that's been around over 400 years and is in the publishing industry in Germany. It's one of the largest media companies in Germany. We also are founded actually in 2001. So we are no spring chicken. We've been around for a long time in this space, and we were founded by people coming over from the publishing industry. So we have deep roots in the print production area and how that relates back to the digital world as well as the physical world. We have a large retention rate within our organization with our clients, and we have a very global presence. In terms of our clients, we work with a lot of different types of clients. We work with some of the largest media companies who are, creating large magazines like Condé Nast or A360 or Hearst or Bauer. A lot of, Us Weekly or Cosmo magazines I'm sure you've seen and heard of. We also work with a lot of retailers like Lands End or Christie's, but even a lot of manufacturers like Bosch Siemens and Volvo, things of that nature, who also have print production needs. Within Censhare, we are able to be that single source of truth for all channels. So on the left-hand side here in red, you can see any information that's important can be pulled in to Censhare. We have very strong APIs, very interoperability driven, and so we can pull in product data if needed from your ERP, your master product data source. And then, of course, all of your digital images can live in here. All of your product data could live in Censhare, all of your content management, your print, and as things have the need to be archived, we can do full archive as well. As those items go through a workflow with, the text being written and, the imagery coming together, and whether it's going into a catalog or out to your website, we're channel agnostic, so we can put it out to any channel that you want, a really omni-channel content delivery platform. So as you're putting those things together, sure, you can use them for print in the physical world, but you could also use it for the digital world as well. In Censhare, we really believe relationships matter, and we're built on a graph database. And so within that graph database, you can see how everything is related. So I can click on an asset, let's say it's an image, and I can see everywhere it's been used. Hey, it's being planned to be used in this issue, it's already been used in this catalog, it's been published to this site, it's been liked by these people, it's assigned for this, it's part of this campaign. And if you think about everything and how it comes together, within Censhare, everything is an asset. Let me repeat that, everything's an asset. So of course you think about things like an image or a video as an asset, but audio is an asset, 3D files, products, and all that data is assets. A store or person is an asset. The license or the rights agreements. Text itself, so as Theresa showed with that bike example, the actual description of the bike, right? So the product description is an asset. Empty assets, you can create an asset with a shell and not have a file ready for it yet. InDesign layouts or templates are assets that can be used. So you can really see, hey, here's this asset, who worked on it, who published it, who approved it, where did it get published, everywhere it's been used, and that provides a lot of context. And the beautiful thing is, where all those things exist, and you can run an update and have it update everywhere it exists as well. So if a product changes or an image changes, you can change that within the site or in the catalog as long as it hasn't been printed yet, and go from there. Censhare offers a lot of different modular content. So, of course, we have a DAM at the core of our system. We have full print production management within the system, full work in progress. We also have things like content management, translation management, product information management, full web CMS and headless CMS, and things of that nature. Within our print production module, it makes things a little bit different. So first off, on the left-hand side, what you're seeing is an integrated flat plan. So if you haven't heard that term before, that allows you to see all the page planning. So every single page of your catalog or your magazine or whatever it is that you're creating, with all of the files there, you can see underneath, linked in that flat plan. So all those InDesign files and images and things of that nature are directly linked within the flat plan. And this creates a tremendous amount of collaboration between your teams. So your editors and your designers, your content creators can all work together. Somebody might be entering, working on the layout, somebody might be entering product data, somebody might be touching up an image, and everything is coming together simultaneously. We have a direct connection within InDesign, which is really great. I mean, within our direct connection, you actually are linking the assets directly to InDesign. So when the person that's working on that InDesign file is working within the InDesign, it actually is showing those changes directly within Censhare. So it tracks all of those changes and histories. And it also links all of the geometry and content items within that file. It's all stored as metadata within Censhare, not just within InDesign. And what that allows you to do is drag, let's say, a product asset into a pre-designed layout, and it populates. It knows exactly where those items are supposed to go on the page. An image is supposed to go here, a price is supposed to go here, copy is supposed to go here, because it's tracking all of those geometry items. So really, really cool. If you'd like some more info on Censhare and our print production module, we have actually created a guide on, DAM print in the physical world. Feel free to email me at jvd@censhare.com, and I will send that over to you. And without further ado, we can go ahead and I will change presenters over to Dale. And I know you're more excited to hear about the Lands' End case than you are just from me. So I'll turn it over to them. Thank you so much, Lands' End team, for coming on and sharing your use case today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Josh. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. Before I get started, I just want to confirm you're able to hear me, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, perfect. So we'll start by just sharing a little bit of information about Lands' End, a little bit of our history. This year's really exciting. We had a birthday. We are 60. We just turned 60. And while we're known for being a classic American lifestyle brand of clothing, swimwear, outerwear, home products, just to name a few, we actually started off in 1963 when we were founded by Gary Colmer, selling sailboat equipment. Hence the common nautical themes. You see some boats in this slide, and our signature lighthouse in our logo. We also got our start in Chicago, but around 1980, we moved our corporate headquarters to Dodgeville, Wisconsin, which is where Dale and I are sitting today. While many of you know us as a catalog company, which is absolutely true, we make a lot of catalogs, we're also a digitally innovative company and first adopter of new technology. So you'll see on this slide, in 1995, we launched our website. And by 2004, we had our first DAM. Over the years, we've had about 3 different DAMs. And in 2019, we implemented the solution we're using today for all of the processes that we're going to cover in today's session. As I mentioned, Lands' End makes a lot of catalogs every year. For the catalogs and all the other channels, digital and print, we manage a lot of assets. In total, we have around 2.5 million assets in our DAM. We're also adding approximately 30,000 new assets each and every month. And then speaking of catalogs, we are making over 200 catalogs per year, all of which are managed in the DAM. We're also adding other types of assets to support a variety of channels, such as CAD logo files. These are used in our product personalization, and in just less than a year now, we've already added 6,000 CAD logo files. At Lands' End, our DAM is powering many of the workflows that support our revenue generating activities, both for digital and physical channels. However, in today's session, we're focusing on the physical, which is what you see in this diagram. Many of the things start with a planned photo shoot, The planning itself is executed digitally using Excel spreadsheets full of data and entering the information about the shots into software. But then those digital photos, when they're captured at the shoots, they go into our DAM and then into the workflows for their destined physical outputs. We're using the DAM to manage or facilitate things like catalog production, hang tag and retail signage, packaging, and the artwork for product personalization, those CAD logo files. And with that, I will hand it over to Dale to go into more detail on many of these workflows.
Right. Yeah, let's take a little tour into the nuts and bolts of how we go ahead and make those catalogs. As you can see from this slide, we make about 200 different catalogs per year, and that equals about 20,000 pages. The catalog process was so important to us that probably was one of the main reasons that we chose back in 2019 the current DAM that we did to help facilitate that process that we'll go into in the next few minutes. Some of the challenges that we encountered during that transition were missing metadata that we had, and it wasn't as obvious in the old DAM. When we switched to this one, we definitely encountered some missing metadata. We also had some inefficient legacy processes, and then also through the catalog process, we did experience a need for some embedded metadata. We'll talk about that later. So one of the things that we did is we took over a few years, we mapped out the image ingest process to try to find out where some of that missing metadata was. So for example, we had a bunch of different processes for different types of photography, maybe a lay down or an on figure, and they maybe had merchandise that wasn't added, or it was added in a different way. And when we got our new DAM, we realized that we could really standardize the way that we ingest and create that metadata. So what we ended up with is a process that you can see here. We start with our shot entry tool, and that is a separate tool from our DAM. It is connected though through regular feeds, and it has a very controlled vocabulary, so users can go in and they can request their shots, and then all that metadata goes to our DAM. One of the things that we added was we always had metadata scanners. We had barcodes on all of our products for photo shoots, but sometimes over the years, those processes had changed. And so one of the things that we really zeroed in on was making sure that every image had all of the barcodes scanned for every product in it. And that really helped with searching and metadata availability in the DAM, because that was connected as well. What happens after those shots are created in that tool and they have their product metadata scanned is it sends that metadata to the DAM, and we call it a placeholder. And it's basically just an empty file just waiting in the DAM with all the metadata available. Once we have all of the images ready, we upload those via hot folder, and they attach themselves to that placeholder. So that one placeholder populates metadata for maybe 30 or 40 images, depending on how many that we need. And then eventually that heads into the DAM, and we were able to harness a function of the DAM to embed some of that metadata into the file, which we then later use in the catalog process. All right, one of the first steps in the catalog production process in the DAM is that page plan that Josh talked about. And we have what's called a page plan creator, and we have a bunch of different trim sizes. So we have a team that determines what physical size the book is going to be. They pick the appropriate template for that trim size, enter in how many pages that book is going to be, and then it populates all of these shells. This is a finished book, but they would be more template. It just pulls however many templates it needs and puts it into this particular shape that we see here. So this is how that page plan creator is made. Another thing that we have is that we operate in different countries. So the screenshot below shows one of the countries that we operate in, and then behind it is another country with different languages. We do use the same basic layout, and so in Censhare we're able to link those together and they're called geometry updates. And I think Josh mentioned that a few minutes ago. So the designers can work on that first book and they can lay it out however they want. Then whenever they need to, they can push all of those changes to the child book, where there are different layers and you can turn the images on or off, or more likely the copy layers, and you can do your translations. So we have one main book that drives some of the other children books. This was a nice feature that we had, because before this, we did have to wait until we reached a certain milestone in the book, and then they had to essentially make a PDF of the images and then start making all of these variant books. So this is nice because we can kind of push the changes on demand and update all of the children books and work on them simultaneously. We also have what we call workflow steps. This is an in-progress DAM, so we start off with those templates, and then we have designers adding images, copywriters adding text, and we have different milestones where we need PDFs made or routing or those sorts of things. So the spreads move through those workflow steps. They are either automated or manual, and as we move through those, different triggers occur, which kind of help to push the catalog along. Another interesting thing is that our pre-media vendor also does work within the DAM with us at the same time. This is an example of some of those workflow steps that we have and how we select them, and then we can save the spread and it will kind of take it off to the next place where it needs to have work done. So on a general daily basis, you can see here, this is a screenshot from the DAM. It has the InDesign file at the top, and then all of the images that we have placed in there down below. So what happens is a designer can come in, they will drag and drop images from the DAM into their InDesign file and do whatever work that they need to do. The DAM does keep track of those relationships and it starts to populate them down below. So you can just click the down arrow and see which images are placed in there, or maybe used to be placed but aren't anymore, and it'll show you which ones are active and not. It does keep track of those relationships itself. We have planning and placement relationships, and so they tell you different things about the images or the spreads in a catalog. And so that's just a nice feature that people can see at a glance what images were planned. We also have scripts that connect into InDesign, and that helps us to populate some of the metadata about the images, and it populates it into the spread so that people can do things like work on the color keys or just general labeling and text for the catalog. All right, one of those very important workflow steps is routing and reviewing, and that also is done within our DAM. So if you think back a couple slides ago to those workflow steps, when we get to a certain point, we select the appropriate workflow step, and then the Censhare does a couple things. It makes a PDF of the book as it exists in that state or that particular spread, and then it assigns it to the appropriate reviewers based on what metadata that we have into that spread. So it'll say, okay, this is a spread about jackets, and that needs to go to this team for reviewing, and it makes a task for them and it gives it to them. They go ahead and they log into the web client on the right, and they can see the spread, and then they can leave whatever comments that they need to leave, and that's all done within the DAM. So later people can come in and they can make whatever changes are necessary, all from within the same tool. We also have PDFs that we make throughout the process. And so on the right side, you can see an example spread. And within the DAM, it has the InDesign file and it has PDF files that we can use for different purposes, especially for routing. And so one of the things that we've done more recently is set up Censhare so that at certain workflow steps, it just makes that PDF, and then they can be exported on demand without the catalog teams having to wait for the PDF generation. So that's been a nice feature that we've just started to explore a little bit more recently. All right, in addition to the catalog, which is probably our most famous thing that we do have 20 retail stores. For those stores, we do signage, packaging, mailers, and more recently, we've started to get more into video. And all of those things we do also house in the DAM. So retail is kind of almost like a mini scaled down version of our catalog process. We do a lot of the same things and use a lot of those same automations. For the packaging, for the signage, we're still using InDesign. We're still building those assets in the DAM. We're using those relationships between the InDesign files and the images. For retail, we are still routing, and then we're generating those PDFs. So pretty much all those same tools that we're using in the catalog process, we're using in a little bit of a scaled down version for retail. One of the unique things for retail is that we're actually submitting the final signs to our pre-media vendor and printer straight through the DAM, which is an extra thing that we do not yet do for catalog. So that is retail.
All right, and so I'm going to jump back in here to cover this last section. This is about the product personalization that we do at Lands' End. We're doing it both on the B2C side as well as B2B side, and it's an important part of our business. On the consumer side, you have things like towels, slippers, clothing, and other things that can all be monogrammed or embroidered or even both. On the B2B side, we're adding company logos to uniforms and promotional products. And our DAM is facilitating the digital process of receiving, storing, and returning all the digital assets for a physical process, stitching or transferring a digitized logo onto that physical product. Okay, great. So what's the problem? Well, until last year, we didn't have a great experience for our customers. When customers would visit our website, you can see here what it looked like. They didn't get a visualization of what the logo looked like. Not only could they not see what the logo looked like on the product they were ordering, but they couldn't even see the logo itself to validate that they had uploaded the correct logo. Additionally, they didn't see any of the fees for what it costs to apply that logo. So it makes the purchasing decision a lot harder when you can't see what you're ordering or even what that total bill is going to be. So what this sounds like is a really great opportunity to improve our conversion numbers. In 2022, a project team was formed to choose and implement a new logo visualization tool for our website. The objectives were to add real-time logo rendering visualization, show setup fees before buying, and pay those setup fees at checkout, with the goal of improving, of course, our revenue in the personalization business on the B2B side. In addition to the obvious opportunity for our business to generate more revenue, there was another kind of opportunity, a DAM opportunity, to streamline the back-end process and over time even bring down some of the operational costs. These logos are being uploaded by our customers, and assuming that this initiative is successful, they could be uploading quite a lot of logos. So where should they all go? The right answer is the DAM, and fortunately we weren't alone in thinking that. In the old workflow, it sounds like the logo files had gotten quite messy. The CAD team, this is the team that's responsible for receiving the logos when they're first uploaded and then working them into CAD files so that they can be used in the appropriate decoration method, whether it's embroidery or heat transfer, whatever it might be. Well, they came to us and said they wanted a new process, one that organized all the files in a centralized location, assigned some metadata so that these files could easily be retrieved later, easily and quickly, and also add a better mechanism for version control. So after many, many months of requirements gathering, weekly stand-ups, dev work, and refinements, the new solution was deployed to our website. What you're seeing here on this slide is what it looks like now. It is a phased implementation, so it's not available for all products on our website. It will be eventually, but not yet. In the meantime, it is available for all products that take embroidery, and I think there's even one other decoration method. And this is what it looks like. So you can see the fabric. This is a swatch, so you can see the fabric. You can see what the logo looks like and the color of the logo against that fabric. You also have markings that tell you what the logo, what size the logo is going to be, so you know how big or how small it's going to be. And this all helps in that purchasing decision. This slide shows how the integration works. So we did integrate our DAM with the new tool. You've got a customer that's uploading a logo at the beginning here. The logo, before ever it makes it to the DAM, is rendered in real time on the website, showing what it looks like on that swatch. The customer is then able to purchase the item, feeling confident they know exactly what it's going to look like on that fabric and what size it's going to be. So they place their order, and then after they've placed their order, that's when the logo file is actually sent to well, first it goes to the CAD team. They do their work, and then the file is ingested into the DAM through a hot folder. Any kind of updates that the CAD specialist team needs to make to the logos afterwards will also be reflected in the DAM. They're going to go back in through that hot folder, so you know that whatever you're seeing in the DAM is always the latest and greatest. And then later, for future orders, when the customer comes back and wants to order more of that product because they were so pleased with what they received, the logo is now in the DAM and can be called through an API REST call for all those future orders. This example of product personalization is a little bit different than the others that we've talked about up to this point in the presentation. The end product isn't marketing material or branded packaging. It is the actual physical product our B2B clients are purchasing. And for that reason, it makes measuring success and demonstrating ROI, a little easier. The implementation of the new visualization tool and the DAM integration into the workflow have been highly successful. Between 2021 and 2022, we've seen a 90% increase in the unit and revenue numbers for new customizations. On average, we're stitching about 25,000 logos every single day. And in terms of traffic and additional potential, we have more than 3 million visitors to the Business Outfitters website each and every year. And then the really exciting part from our DAM point of view is that we saw more than 1 million API calls in just 1 month. And so this integration, this was the very first API integration that we did. We quickly did another one, and we have plans to do even more. In fact, we deemed this year, 2023, the year of the integration. And that is actually everything that we have to present today. So back over to you, Theresa.
Yes, wonderful. So we would love to take some questions. I've got a few to start, and I know sometimes people are a bit shy and it takes a little while for the questions to come out, but if you didn't realize, there's a question tab. So you should be able to put your just put your questions in the question tab, and I will address those shortly as they come in. So one of the things I wanted to ask that I thought was that both of you commented on, Dale and Natalie. So Dale, you at one point said, over the period of a couple of years, you looked at your current process and you thought about the process and sort of mapped out new process. And then Natalie, you had said many, many months of requirements gathering. So it sounds like you did a lot of time planning. You spent a lot of time understanding and planning. Why was that important? You know, and because I think a lot of people, they buy these technologies and they implement them really fast, and you know, they think getting it launched is more important than planning. Could you talk about why did you spend a lot of time doing that?
Do you want to go first, Dale? Or?
Sure, yeah, I'll take it first, and then you can add on. One of the things that we when we look at specifically the process that you mentioned in terms of how many years it took to do, this was a major obstacle when we actually started our DAM, because I remember we were sitting in training rooms and we had dozens of people in each room, and then it would come up, well, how do I find my images? And we went to search by style number, which is our main number to search for, and nothing was coming up. And then it came up in one of these meetings, oh, well, we have a different process for these kinds of images. We don't put the metadata there, we put it over here. And so that kind of uncovered that we had over the years, many different processes that had just kind of come about. And when you think about having 30,000 new assets coming in and a bunch of different processes, it was a lot of interviewing people. So we had to start with, you know, who starts the images, who requests them, what metadata do they have, who do they hand it off to next? And I thought of it almost like a secret recipe, because so many people were involved and so many people only knew the step that they did and then maybe who they handed it off to, but if there was an automation, maybe they didn't know that. So in terms of time, I remember starting at the beginning and then getting stuck with mapping it out and not even sure where the things went next, and then kind of, okay, well, I'll start it from the back and I'll interview with people, what do you do and where does the metadata come for you? And it took that much time to really map it out. But it was very important to do, because that was really difficult in terms of transitioning the DAM, because people were, you know, how do I search? That's the number one function of the DAM. But if the metadata isn't there, it really underscores how important, number one, that it is, but people also couldn't do the rest of their job, which is, you know, all the different features that we talked about with catalog production, if they couldn't find their images, number one. But it took a lot of time because we had so many people involved in so many different processes. So really mapping it out and getting it very firmly in writing was very important for that.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah, I think we've also learned a lot through trial and error. I think it's easy to assume you have a lot of the answers, or there aren't as many questions as there really are. You know, you know what the problem is, you know what you want to do. Is there really that many conversations needed to get from problem to solution? And time and time again, we realize that if we don't have enough conversations, we don't build the right solution. It doesn't really solve the need, or there's, you know, something, another issue that arises that just wasn't considered. So it's really important to take that time, have all those conversations, repeat some of the same questions on different days, because you might get a different answer, and have those questions, of course, with lots of people, because the information, not everyone has all the information. So.
Well, I have to say you've done far better than most organizations in that regard, you know, just having those conversations and making that inclusive process. So that's really good. Excellent. A few more questions here. Someone asked, do you have sort of a master data management tool for metadata? And is the metadata managed somewhere else? So you talked a bit about data moving around, but maybe you could talk about whether you use a separate tool for that or not.
Oh, I wish we had a different answer. If we do, I haven't found it yet. I wish that we did have a master data system, but we're pulling information from lots of different tools and trying to make sense of it. We do have a PIM. It's just been kind of slow to get it stood up, but I hear that next year is the year for the PIM. So I think a lot should get easier next year, hopefully.
That's good.
Okay.
I think when you talk about how long things take, that would be another example of a major project. And so we have kind of come up with different approaches to getting metadata in, you know, as we kind of wait for that particular project to come, but that will hopefully help streamline a lot of things.
Yeah. So one question that this hasn't been asked by the audience, but I think it would be definitely interesting for everyone to hear. So you're an organization with 2 digital asset managers, and I remember Natalie, before you got hired, I think was when I did my first project with Land's End, and I remember when you were hired, it was like a big party, you know, and everyone was so excited to have a DAM manager and someone with your skills, and then you brought Dale on board. Could it have even been, well, first of all, how did the organization get behind that? You know, hiring, you know, DAM managers to really do this, and how do you continue to expand, you know, hopefully, you know, continue to expand on the team when you brought Dale on board? You know, can you talk a bit about the importance of DAM managers and justifying bringing them on board in an organization? Because I know a lot of companies struggle with that.
Yeah, actually, so Dale's been here longer, and Dale's
Oh,
sitting
has he?
okay. Dale has actually been at Land's End for about 4 years, and I've been here for 3 years. So he's got a year.
Got it.
There's a different dam manager whenever we moved to Censhare.
That's what I'm remembering. Yeah, I remember that. Yes, yes.
But you're right. It's amazing that we have such a large team, because it's not just Dale and I. We're the dam specialists, but we have a digital imaging team that reports to me, and so that's 7 people. It fluctuates a little bit, that are working to receive the assets, validate the metadata, and make sure that they're going where they need to go. So we've got a lot of support here at Land's End. A lot of that comes from having a really fantastic director who really gets the value of dam and is always going to bat for us and advocating. But I mean, it's been this way for a while. I've never felt as though the value's ever questioned. Like, everyone here at Land's End just gets how important digital asset management is.
That's good.
Did you have anything to add, Dale?
I think the in-progress nature of the dam is really important there too, because you have, okay, we're going to have 3,000 of these assets coming in, or 10,000, and the dam is the only way to do it, because we do it in progress and it has to be there. So then the team has to jump into action to figure out workflows and a process to make it happen. So I think that probably is a major one right there. But we are really lucky that Land's End made some decisions years ago that really kind of cemented how important the dam would be to the company going forward. And so as a result, kind of company-wide, people know that they reach out here for what they need.
That's great. Wonderful. All right, we got a lot more questions coming in. Can the Land's End team please discuss how much work their pre-media vendor does in the dam, or is that just for handoff and exchange of assets? And do you have any security concerns around that?
So we have a couple different vendors working in our dam to different degrees. One vendor is using the check-in and check-out feature, so that the assets never really have to leave the dam, which is fantastic. And we've got this workflow built with different automations, and that's been working really wonderfully. Another one of the vendors is going even further, and they're actually editing metadata for us, which is fantastic. Security concerns, we've vetted it with our security team. It seems to be just fine. It's not on my radar. Do you have any other?
That's good. If you have any.
Obviously, security is very important, but
well, maybe that's something I could maybe pop that over to Josh. I mean, with so many customers, so many dam buyers wanting to engage with third parties, wanting to collaborate with agencies, pre-media vendors. I mean, this is obviously a big concern for dam buyers. How has Censhare addressed, security concerns over the years? Is that something you can speak to a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of security, this seems to be something that's even more and more pressing the last year and a half. I can't tell you how many security questionnaires I've filled out, probably more in the last year and a half than the previous 5 years before that. And Censhare has a chief security and information officer and a lot of things in place. We recently received our ISO 27001 certification, which is a very challenging certification to get around security standards and your processes in place to make sure that those things actually happen. So it is a huge deal, and Censhare notoriously works with a lot of very large enterprise clients. So it's really important to those types of clients as well. In terms of permissions around the users, Censhare, I would say, can get incredibly granular around a permission, around what someone can see. Oftentimes, permissions in a dam are based on files and folders. So if I gave access to somebody to a folder, they would have access to do kind of anything they want in there. Censhare can get much more granular than that, down to the asset level or down to the workflow step. So I might not be able to even see something until it hits a certain workflow step, or I might be able to view it but not edit it until it hits a certain area where it's applicable to me. And since we work with so many different organizations that have external agencies, that's incredibly important to be able to limit what they're able to see. And if we don't want somebody in the actual dam, of course, we have online channel and headless CMS where we're pushing information outside of the dam, and where still people can log in. We can still track who it is that's going in there, and we can create communication standards within a external portal for some sort of light workflow in that as well.
That's great. Extremely granular and detailed answer. Thank you, Josh. That was great.
Yeah, Josh made me think of something. So our pre-media vendors, they have a lot more access to the dam. They need all of those raw assets, but then we also have agencies coming in there, and there we are locking down the permissions. So that was a really great example, Josh.
Excellent. Very good. All right, we've got a couple more questions. So somebody actually asked what an API call was. And this is, it's the typical question, right? So we could say, an API, it stands for Application Programming Interface. And maybe Natalie and Dale, you can talk a bit about how you're using the API and what an API call is to elucidate that, because a lot of people obviously haven't integrated their dam or connected it to something else. So maybe you could explain that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, so we do have, even before we got into the API realm, we had quite a few integrations, but they were mostly flat file transfers. So their information coming in through hot folders. So it's not in real time. Often the information is being processed overnight. The great benefit with an API call, and Josh might want to jump in later and fill in like more technical details, but the great thing with the API calls is that this is all real time information sharing. And it's all happening without human intervention. Like, it's not somebody dragging a file into a hot folder. It's these calls that the systems are making to one another to share, push and pull information. So the integration that we shared in this presentation, the one for the product personalization, this is what I would call kind of a pseudo API integration. We do have an API working, but it's not until later in the process. It's not bidirectional. Mm-hmm. I don't believe it's bidirectional. However, immediately following the integration that we did to support product personalization, we went into another one for the same team, for the Lebo business, or the Lands End Business Outfitters business. And that's a full-fledged API integration. And it's more modern, and it's been really wonderful for us.
Good. I think it's important to think of APIs as ways for different systems to have conversations and share things back and forth. So if you haven't explored that, for those of you on the session, if you haven't explored that, that's worth talking with your vendor about, to think about how you can really eliminate a lot of manual sorts of processes and hopefully pass data through in more dynamic and automated ways. So that's why we like APIs. APIs are good. Okay, a few more questions here. So someone asked, with regards to routing and reviewing, does your dam store the history of all the asset versions, including the comments? And do you have records of the proofing decisions as far as the approval and the changes required?
Dale is very passionate about records retention. I'll let him field that question.
That actually is, I think, probably one of my favorite features of Censhare, is that version history. And so for the InDesign files, for the PDFs, you can pop open a panel and you can see what they used to look like throughout all the different versions. As far as comments, the comments do, through those relationships that Josh talks about, they do stick to those PDFs indefinitely, basically. We also have different permissions set up so that once a comment is made, it pretty much sticks there. Someone can go back and they can add another comment to maybe modify it there, but then it kind of retains that tracking as well. Was there any more? Were there a couple pieces to that question, or does that cover it?
Approval, proofing, you mentioned that? No, I think that's pretty much it. They just want to know if there was a history of the asset versions, including the comments and the proofing decisions.
Yeah, there's full history within the platform, not just on the changes, but on every single server action if you'd like it. And also within our InDesign connector, which is a little bit different than others. It literally shows like every single thing that happened within InDesign. So when you're working in InDesign, it's as if you're working in Censhare. So it's tracking all those things, which is really fantastic. And just on that previous question on APIs, yes, it's definitely a conversation between the two systems. Oftentimes, what we see so often with retailers or product companies is we're pulling in that product data into the DAM, but that data is locked down once it's in there, because you don't want to change your master data in the DAM. You'd want to change that in its source, right, if it needed to be changed. And then as it gets approved and published out, especially on the digital side, it's not just publishing out to one channel. It could be publishing out to a tremendous amount of different channels, knowing exactly what each channel needs. So I could be pushing it out to my website, but I could also be pushing it out to other retailers, an Amazon or a Walmart. I could be pushing out to social. And then also we're able to only publish, if you'd like, the delta when there are updates. So instead of having to publish the whole product again or the whole page, you're able to only publish the changes in that, which is really fantastic on the digital side.
Thank you. Excellent detail. This is all very good. Okay, another question. Someone asked about the proof approval process. Are the annotation tools, this might be a question for Josh, are they unique to Censhare, proprietary, or are you using like the Adobe commenting, or is it a bit of both?
Within Censhare, we have full communication where you can, create tasks and assign them to people. The annotations where you can annotate, a certain section, and then make a comment related directly to that annotation. That's all built within Censhare. That's proprietary within Censhare, and all of that is tracked within that history. You can have, of course, multiple annotations, and those annotations can be on images, but they could also be on videos as well. Annotating from this clip to this clip, right? So.
Great, thank you. Someone wanted to know if at Land's End, do you store website images on your DAM? And how does that differ in size for the print catalog? Or do you have the original images in the DAM that then get converted for the web? A little bit about that interaction, maybe?
So we have both. We've got the high-res TIFFs that are ingested. First they come in as raw, unedited files, and then variants are made to apply the edits, the retouching. And then from those high-res files, we are formatting and renaming images for our website, and then re-ingesting the formatted images into the DAM to apply metadata and to capture that new file name. So we've got both.
Great. Excellent. Okay. And then one last question that came in around PIM. How long have you been planning for a PIM? And did you have a homegrown system or separate siloed things that were managing your product data? And just some sort of questions around that, like how are you dealing with it today if you don't quite have like a modern new PIM yet? That's the question.
I think you should take that one, Dale.
No. Which part of it? Like
how long have we been planning for the PIM?
Well, I've been here since 2019, and there were discussions at that time as well. Of course, we all know world events that have happened over the last few years, and that made things very challenging. We were lucky with our transition for our DAM that we were well in progress by 2020, and so we just continued working. But that was definitely a challenge for some other teams that were maybe not as far along. But it's been on the radar for a while.
Yeah, and we've had a couple other big initiatives, product management. So we're getting a new PLM, product line management, right? And so that kind of took the priority. I mean, there's been reasons why the PIM has been delayed, though it's supposed to be reprioritized next year. As far as how we're getting the metadata today, we are using a variety of systems to pull it all together into our shop planning tool, which then produces those placeholder images that go into the DAM, those containers that have all the product information that the images inherit when they overwrite the placeholders.
Yeah, I remember talking to some guy who's sort of bringing all that together in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
We got one more question that's just come in. Let's see what we can do with the time we got left. How do you overcome the challenges of getting the business to understand that a consistent asset creation process is essential. Essential for good data and good outputs. So how do you get the business to understand? It sounds like your business gets it, as you said earlier, pretty much, which is great. Why do you think that is? Why do you think your business gets it versus others that don't?
Or maybe any advice to this question asker?
Yes, definitely. I think she's looking for advice on how she can get her business to understand that consistent asset creation process is essential for good data and good outputs.
I mean, when I think about it, it all goes back to the metadata. I mean, everyone understands, right? The metadata is so important if you want to be able to find these things later, either when they're first ingested or say a year later, then it becomes even more challenging. So I often think it happens whenever people can't find things and we start having these conversations about the importance of the metadata.
Yep. It's a good one. It's a good one. Dale, anything to add?
I would agree with that. I think a lot of it stems from people finding things and not being able to find things. And going back again, we have not always we have learned the hard way before as well. When, okay, we have 2.5 million assets and you're trying to find things and you're coming up with 0 results. Well, that's not the case. And that was definitely in the beginning of when we switched to Censhare. And the natural reaction for people was, well, what kind of dam is this? We can't find our stuff. It must be the dam problem. And so a lot of it was just talking about vocabulary and talking about metadata and process, and the dam will give us whatever we feed into it back. And so there was a lot of discussions, and I think people really bought into how real it was when they were able to or not able to find things and recognized how important it was to do their work. So I would say that is one. And then also, I think we are really lucky to have the leadership that we do, because very often it's not really a question. It has to be in the dam and it has to be standard. So I think we have those two things coming in. It hasn't always been perfect, and we've definitely learned, but we also have really strong support, and that's something we're very lucky to have.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a good last thought. So we'll wrap up today. If anyone comes up with more questions, please use the email addresses here that are on the slide. Don't forget that Josh offered to share his guide that Censhare has put together about the connections with DAM and the physical world. So you can get that from Josh if you email him at jvd@censhare.com. If you have any other questions, please feel free to pop them to me or Dale or Natalie right here, and you will get a recording of this webinar, and you're welcome to follow up with any of us as needed and as you see fit. Next week, same day, Tuesday, same time, we're going to be talking about DAM for video distribution and streaming with some very smart people from ICP, as well as someone who was just the head of marketing for Unilever, who recently left. Unilever is going to share a whole bunch of insights as well. So please join us next week, and thanks again for joining the series. Thank you, Dale, Natalie, and Josh. Great job. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Theresa, and thank you, Josh, Natalie, and Dale. Thanks everyone for listening. Recording of this session will be shortly made available, and we look forward to seeing you all again for session 4 next week. Take care, everyone.